So lately I've been thinking of new ideas for content, and I've been watching quite a few retro game collection videos. Seeing these consoles often brings up feelings of nostalgia in all of us and has us yearning for our past, our childhoods, and when times were simpler. I've even seen some people comment on these kinds of videos and say that they feel like gaming died after Enter Old Console here, and they would gladly play this old console and its titles rather than the garbage of today's gaming world. Now, I will say that there are some merits to the discourse about the many trends in modern gaming that have alienated gamers, such as the egregious microtransactions found in many online games, releasing half-baked games just to put something out on shelves that devs can fix later, and the remake or remaster everything under the sun. But hearing that some of these gamers would rather go back to a time when older consoles were all they had got me thinking, what would it be like if you only had an older console to play in 2023? And so this marks the first episode in this new series where I'll be taking an older console and only playing that console for the course of 7 days. To start things off, we have one of the first consoles I ever played in my life, though I was very young and terrible at video games at the time, the Nintendo 64. For one whole week I played only the Nintendo 64 to see what it would be like if this was my one and only way to play video games. Despite this being one of my first consoles in my life and me being quite young as I stated before, I do have extremely vivid and fond memories of some of the experiences I had on it, even if they're also a bit vague at the same time. Kind of weird. Yeah, it's hard to explain. I was really looking forward to starting this challenge, and so the minute I finished my Final Fantasy XVI review, I began my life with only a Nintendo 64. The only modern gaming I got to do was playing the two series that I play on stream every Thursday and Friday night, so sit back, relax, and enjoy my experience of playing only a Nintendo 64 for a week in 2023. Before we talk about my experience with the console, we should probably get to know this beauty a bit better. The Nintendo 64 was Nintendo's follow-up to the eternally popular and legendary Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which sold nearly 50 million units worldwide. So, as you can imagine, the shoes here to fill were insanely large. The N64 was the first home console to feature 3D graphics in the 64-bit style, and was also the introduction of the analog stick to controllers that we recognize today. It came in a huge variety of colors and would have almost 400 games released during its lifetime. The N64 came out in 1996 in the States, and it was the last home console to use game cartridges until a little-known console called the Nintendo Switch came out more than 2 decades later. However, this choice by Nintendo was counterintuitive, as the cartridges for their games were expensive and couldn't hold as much data as the CD-ROMs that consoles moving forward would adopt. This may also be a reason that some third-party support for Nintendo would wane, and the reliance on first-party game support that even happens today would become so heavy. The Nintendo 64 would go on to be hailed as one of the best video game consoles of all time though, so hey, what do those developers know? Now that we've talked a bit about the history of the console, I do want to make a note of something before we get into my overall experience. I did not include the 2 Zelda titles or Super Mario 64 in this challenge, which I know some of you may find hard to cope with. My reasoning is that I feel like each of these games deserves its own video, and I kind of thought that with the scope of these 3 games, I could have easily just put Ocarina of Time, for instance, in for the whole week and never have played anything else, and probably still not have beaten this game. I have played all of these titles before, and I really enjoyed them. I think they're all masterpieces in their own right, and their existence on the Nintendo 64 would totally be considered when I talk about the console as a whole at the end of this, I swear. Okay, so this challenge was one that I could not wait to start because I was ready to dive back into a console that I haven't played in many years. As I stated before, I have some vivid memories of games on the Nintendo 64 from the limited understanding of games that I had at the time, and I wondered if the legendary magic of old games known as nostalgia would show its face to me. I was genuinely curious to see how long it would take me to miss some of the conveniences or sleekness of modern video games. I actually couldn't wait to upload my Final Fantasy XVI review the day that I did, and after it was up I looked at Nada and I said, "Hello wife, it's time to return to the years of legend." The first thing I noticed immediately that a lot of retro gamers say that is 100% true is that older games are extremely difficult. Now I can't say for sure that they're harder than modern games as a whole because we have games like the Souls-like genre which are hard on purpose, they're intentionally difficult, but they are definitely harder than the average modern release. Seriously, nothing will humble you more than trying to play Quake 1 and getting absolutely decimated by a fiend because the controls are fairly hard to get used to on the Nintendo 64 controller, as well as the game just dishing out some serious damage. This was a theme that was present in most of the games I played, and I actually found this amount of challenge to be refreshing, if not a little disheartening, because I was given another reminder of why people watch me for my personality and not for my skills. Hurts. Another thing I noticed extremely early on is the games just had a different feel to them. There's something about these older titles that just feel adventurous. Like, the devs at the time weren't afraid to try off-the-wall ideas to see what would stick and what didn't work. I remember the good old days, Ubisoft, those good old days where you used to put towers in every one of your games, and we'd have to climb up your little towers, climb up so you can see the rest of the map. I remember. Oh, and don't forget, you gotta defeat the enemy camps to unlock more of the map too. I remember. But this is a thing that is remembered mostly with sports games of the retro days for me, where EA made a football manager game, and rugby, and NCAA basketball. There's also the NFL and FIFA Street series that would be on later consoles, and yeah, this is a topic for a whole nother video, but the point is that a lot of these games had some goofiness to them that just worked. I'm not saying that we don't have these experiences in modern gaming at all, but it's as if something about these old games, at least the ones that I played, it just felt like every game was different and unique. Get the fuck out of here, Ubisoft. I also noticed that without the pressure of online gaming, I spent more time just being present. Something I really struggled with that took a massive toll on my progress and my backlog over the years was my friends inviting me to play online with them. Now, I'm not complaining about having friends, and most of the people that I spend my time online with today are really cool and understanding, but you know, sometimes you just gotta game with the homies, then you never finish Horizon Zero Dawn. Ever. I still haven't beaten it. Is it good? Should I beat it? But some of the friends I had over the years would get mad at me for not joining them on various online games, and that pressure would cause me to have many games that I ended up not playing because of the feeling like I had to be online or people would be disappointed with me. This carried over into my adult life, and then I started to put these restrictions on myself, but like I said, everyone in my life now pushes me to play the games that I want to play. Sorry for the long tangent, but what I'm trying to say is that without the pressure that I now put on myself, I really just relaxed and had so much fun playing these games. I also felt like without that pressure to hang out with everyone and never having enough time for the people in my life, the reduction of online gaming meant that I could free myself of that feeling like I couldn't take breaks to just watch a movie or get lost in downtown on a nice day. It felt nostalgic to put the controller down and go outside, and it made my enjoyment of the console that much more intense. Hope that makes sense. The final thing I want to touch on about how I feel about this challenge was the genuine fun that I had while playing this console. I was shocked by how many of these games were not only playable, but are fun today. I mean, if you judge a book by its cover, I know we're not supposed to do that, but if we do, I mean, like, damn, I don't know about this one, Chief. But no, in all seriousness, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about returning to some of the new-to-the-time 3D jankiness of these games, and while there were some rough graphics and some janky controls from time to time, I had a great deal of fun. As I stated before, there's just something charming about this console and its games, and there were nights where I couldn't wait to plug in and get lost in the 90s. So yeah, my overall experience of just having a Nintendo 64 for gaming in 2023 was really positive. I feel like I could have done this for a month and still not been tired of the console easily. There are plenty of titles on here that I'm going to play for the channel, whether it be to review them or to stream them. Overall, the console is just really cool. It was an awesome experience. This was due to so many factors like the ones I talked about before, and also stuff like the couch co-op experience feeling like it was well integrated into the games that included it, and that nostalgic feeling of shit-talking Nadia face-to-face was just chef's kiss. Sweet experience. I think that if you're from this era or shortly after, there is so much fun to be had, and I would recommend checking out the Nintendo 64 by any means necessary, if you know what I mean. Because I had a great time with it. This is an easy recommendation in 2023 for a retro gaming experience that will have you and maybe the people that you play with really having a good time. Now that I've shared my takeaways and some of my thoughts about the overall experience, I want to share a few games that I really did like and some that I really didn't from this challenge, just to help you kind of get a feel for my taste in games. I would love to hear about the games that you love and even ones that you don't on the Nintendo 64 in the comments below, so let me know. First up, we're going to cover the games that I didn't like, and these are going to piss some people off, which, so be it. This was a game that Nadia and I sat down on day one of the challenge to play. Both of us love Mario Kart 8 on the Switch, and I was excited to trigger some nostalgia as this was one of the main games that I played back in the day on the N64. Mario Kart 8 is also a game that Nadia is extremely competitive about when it comes to our household, so we booted up Mario Kart 64 and began the high-intensity competition that we always have, where it's me and Nadia throwing turtle shells, fighting for first place. Well, that's what I would like to say, but this is more like what it was. This run of form would see Nadia go on to make such quotes such as, fuck, I can't even say them without laughing. This isn't the kind of edging I like, and Mario Kart 64 is the reason that our generation has anger issues. When I asked how she really felt, she said, quote, fuck this game, it's stupid. Mario Kart 64 definitely has aged quite a bit, I did find myself having some fun with it, such as with the drifting mechanic, which was pretty slick, and the maps were nostalgic, but they were really rough to actually drive on, most of them. This game also severely punishes mistakes. Like, if you fall off the map and you don't time that gas pedal perfectly when Lakitu drops you back on the track to take off again, you'll go from 1st to 8th place in the time it takes your character to stop hitting the stanky leg and drive. It took us an hour to play on every track at least once, and then we did not return to this game for the rest of the week, mostly because I was afraid Nadia would snap her controller in half. I can appreciate what this did for Mario Kart and its transition into the 3rd dimension, but all in all, I just really didn't have a good time with this one, which I'm sure some people will be using their little grippers to grab their little keyboard and slamming their little feet down to tell me that I'm wrong. But yeah, it just didn't work for me, so... next. After not finding a lot of enjoyment in Mario Kart 64, I scoured the internet for the list of the best Nintendo 64 games, or games from this console that are still fun to play today. Countless videos and articles listed Diddy Kong Racing as a good racing rival to Mario Kart, some even claiming that this game was better than Mario Kart 64. Honestly, I think there's just something wrong with me at this point because, dude, this game fucking blows. This game blows hard. I did not like my time with this game at all, and aside from the new gimmick being that there's just water and air races in addition to kart racing, it just wasn't fun. The controls aren't very tight or refined, the items in the race that the players can use leave a lot to be desired, and overall this game was just, yeah, it just wasn't fun. I don't even know how else to describe it. It was boring. Sorry for all the Diddy Kong Racing fans out there, but I really didn't like this game. Like, super bad. Like, really bad. Like, this was horrible. It's probably just a me thing, though, you know? Like what you like. So we talked about the games that I didn't like, the ones that I had a chance to play, both of which ended up being big racing titles that everyone mentions when talking about the N64. But dude, F-Zero is the most fun racing games hands down of the 3 that I played. There's no items aside from the boost power that you unlock, which I don't even know if that really constitutes as an item. But I thought I would miss them, like the little turtle shells and shit. But no, this game was centered around how good you are as a racer, or just ramming other people off the track to their death below. Or missing and falling to your death below. The hover car thing moves fast, the soundtrack is crazy and fits the style of the game so well with shredding guitars at breakneck speed. There's also like 30 racers on the track at any time, and man, I can't speak highly enough about this game. I had so much fun with F-Zero, and I'm definitely going to be playing this more and more. It's a game that I'm looking forward to making Nadia play with me at some point so I can just start kicking her ass at it for many moons to come. Perfect Dark is a game I heard a lot about, as I do watch quite a bit of the retro game collection community on YouTube. This was another game that I had never played, and I was eager to try it as I kind of wanted to see what the pinnacle of first-person shooter games was like at the time. I have to say this was a lot of fun, and the campiness of the voice acting as well as the overall vibe of the title felt like an over-the-top action movie. Equipped with the one person taking on the world kind of thing, quick movement, relatively snappy gunplay even if it was a bit clumsy at times, and hilarious death sounds. Unfortunately, I could only play this one for a few hours one day out of my challenge, but as with most of these games, I do plan on going back and beating this one for sure. Perfect Dark is a really fun experience, and there's just a lot to love here. Banjo-Kazooie. Once again, I was an underdeveloped little tadpole when I was trying to play this game, and as such, my memories of it are very vague. I was really excited to hop into this classic, and upon choosing to do so, I was met with an instant wave of nostalgia, hearing the soft opening tune of the banjo as these two goofsters popped up on the screen. I didn't get very far at all because of my schedule and a limited amount of time, but what I did play was really quite a bit of fun. Sure, there was some old console jank to it, but overall this game was a really good time, and I think that I will be returning to this at some point. Banjo-Kazooie ended up being a blast of nostalgia for me, and I'm glad that I chose this title to return to after all this time. This was the second game that I played on day one when work was a little slow, and it was by far the most fun I had playing this console. Like, I had to force myself to put this game down. I gave this a shot because, one, I've always found Fox to be a pretty cool guy, and two, many of the top N64 game lists and videos that I referenced in preparation for this video said that this game was amazing and holds up incredibly well even to this day. I have to say they were right. This was a lot of fun indeed. Sure, it has aged. I mean, if you're playing games from this time period in 2023 and expect there to be no aging, you were just living in a fantasy. But overall, I really did appreciate the smooth gameplay experience that Star Fox 64 offered. It walked the line of simple enough to learn, and yet it was extremely challenging at times. I really did let all of my squad down over and over and over again. Sorry, Falco. This is where nostalgia comes in strong for me. I absolutely loved this game as a kid, and while playing this with Nadia, she unlocked a memory that had lain dormant in my brain since this time. She asked if I remembered the mini games that were on Pokemon Stadium, and I was like, no. What do you mean? I thought this was just a battling game for Pokemon. And then she said, look, here's some mini games. And then we played Licky Licky Sushi. Dude, when I tell you as a chunky boy, both now and back then, I played this game so much, and returning to it for the first time in 2 decades had me laughing my ass off. Also, Nadia allegedly beat me in a Pokemon battle, but I seem to have lost that footage, so I guess we'll never know. This was a game that we both enjoyed so much and continued to play for most of the week off and on. I feel like this game is a classic, and I can only imagine what seeing Pokemon in 3D for kids back in the 90s who had working memories and functioning brains must have been like. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time and just swinging by to hang out with me. Sorry if I missed some classics. I know I didn't play GoldenEye or Smash Bros. Or, I don't know, Pokemon Snap. But I'm totally down to do this again, and I will make another video if you guys are interested on just the Nintendo 64. I do have plans to move forward and do other consoles first, but like I said, a lot of these games are going to be featured on Let's Plays on the streams coming up, or reviews if I play them in my own time. So don't worry, I will play GoldenEye. I will play Smash Bros. I won't be playing Diddy Kong Racing. Sorry. The Nintendo 64 experience, in my opinion, is still a valid and fun way to enjoy video games, and while the games may look a little janky now or have some old cringe to them, that's part of what makes retro games fun. I think it's an easy yes. The Nintendo 64 is still a fun experience in 2023, even if it's the only system that you have. Do you guys think that you could survive with only a Nintendo 64 in 2023? Let me know in the comments below. See you guys in the next one. Peace.